Okay, so what did God show? Now he's talking about Pharaoh, right? And this is what he's saying right here. Watch this. He's talking about Pharaoh. God's just using him as an example. This is Romans chapter 9. I'm starting at verse 14. What shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with God? Here's your answer. Certainly not. He was talking about sovereign election above this. Rebekah also have conceived by one man, even our father Isaac. Sovereign election. Watch this. For the children, the twins that she had in her womb, not yet being born, they were not out of the womb. They haven't done good, nor haven't done any good, and neither did they do any evil. How could they? They were still in the womb. God made a selection, an election. Why did he do it? That the purpose, folks, are you listening to this? God is explaining himself. He's giving you the why he elects certain people and don't elect others. You don't have to explain this, but he did. That's why I teach it. That the purpose of God, whose purpose? God's purpose. What about it, Lord? According to election. God says, I go around and determine who's going to heaven and who's not. He gives you an example with Esau and Jacob. Jacob I loved, but Jacob hadn't done any good or any evil. Esau I hated, but Esau wasn't even born, neither had he done any good or any evil. God said, I hated him. Wait, no. You love one and hate the other? Yeah. Same father, same mother. They were in the same womb. Together, side by side, growing. Both sinners. Both deserving eternal judgment in hell. Hadn't come out the womb. No good behaviors. No bad behaviors. Yet, the Most High said, because of my plan, because of my purpose, I, God, according to my sovereign election. What about it, Lord? That it might stand. Forget it. Can't undo that by behavior. Who is going to challenge him? Who's going to turn him around? Who's going to stop him? God said, I elect who I want. And to make sure you understood what he said, he adds this. It's not by your works. No. You can't get there by that. But of him. Who's the him? God. God. But of God. What about it, Lord? I call. There you have it, folks. God calls people to be saved. When he calls them, in Ephesians 2 we read, when he calls them, what happened? They're made alive. He gave an example of that. What example? Lazarus. Jesus Christ did exactly this. He called a dead man. Did Lazarus pray? No. Did Lazarus do something? No. Jesus called him. He was dead. And he came to life. But he was still wrapped in those mummy clothes. That's us. It was said to her, the older shall serve the younger, as is written, Jacob I love, Esau I've hated. So this question that comes up in verse 14 now, folks, I'm way off topic. What comes up in verse 14, what shall we say? Say about what? Say about what we just read. See, folks, people had problems with this back in Paul's day. You ain't the first to come and question that. You think when I read this and understood it, I didn't question it? I had a tough time with this, folks. I really did. Until God completely opened my eyes to what he was doing. I was asking the same questions here. What, Lord? What? How can you? Is there any unrighteous in me, Kevin? Any unrighteousness? No. Is God wrong for loving Jacob and hating Esau? No. And our lives proved it. I wrote a book called a commentary on Obadiah, the God that loves and hates. I go into details about it. You don't have to read that book. I'm not pumping the book. Okay? You can go find it, other people's written stuff. God explains it. He gives an answer. He didn't have to, folks. But God is merciful. He understands that we want to know. And what he wants us to know, he tells us. He says to Moses, I will have mercy on whomever I will. You can't tell me who to have mercy on. You can't pray your way to heaven. I will have compassion on whomever I will. Have compassion. You have no say so. So then, if you don't get that, Mr. Paul and Mr. Moses, it is not of him. Who's him? The sinner. Because everybody's one. Who wills? You can't will your way into heaven any more than you can fly like a bird. Any more than you had say-so over who your parents were, what nation you were born in, what time of day you were going to be born, your birthday. You had nothing to do with that. God says it's not your will. Nor, he's talking salvation, folks, nor of him who runs. You can't work. That's works. That's religion. And anything else you want to call it. You can't do it. But it's only of God. That's it. Who shows mercy to whomever I will. For the scriptures even said, and he gives you an example. The scripture says of Pharaoh, for this, listen to this, folks. For this very purpose, God had a specific purpose for Pharaoh. Listen to this. I, God, have raised you up. The only reason you were born, Pharaoh, is for this. All that other stuff that happened in your life was only preparing you for this day, for this hour, for what I intended to do with you all the time. What is it, Lord? That I, God, may show. That is again, folks. We're on display. That I may show my power. Oh my goodness. This is an attribute God wanted to show. How would he show his power if Pharaoh wasn't there? He couldn't. So to show his power, he created Pharaoh. that I'm going to show it upon you. Dad, why would you do that, Lord? That my name may be declared in all the earth. Folks, there you have it. God says, I raised up Pharaoh for this purpose and this purpose alone, that I may show my power to the entire world. You think Pharaoh had any idea that was what's going on? You think, had he known that, he'd have became Pharaoh? I doubt it. Did he have a choice? We're talking about salvation, folks. God concludes, therefore, he God has mercy on whom he wills. Here's where people got problems. In whom he, God, the same one who's having mercy, whom he wills, God hardens. Whoa. Who's in control? Is it the sinner? What says the scriptures? The scripture says, God wills to show mercy to certain individuals. And he says, that same God wills to leave people in their sin. Salvation is of the Lord. You may not like it. You may not even agree with it. You may have flipped the channel off and said, Kevin have finally lost it. I didn't interject any opinion into this word. These are not my words. I didn't write the book. I simply pointed out to you by highlighting words to show you exactly what it says. You didn't need an explanation. All you need to do is do exactly what we did. Slow down, read it, and it clearly says what it says. Let's wrap this up, folks. We didn't get anywhere close to where I wanted to go, but the Spirit of God decided He wanted to take this. You and I, folks, I can't. I got tough time with some of the stuff that I read, but I have no choice but to tell you, because it's true. You will say, and I did too, to Paul about God. Why then, if all what you just said is true, Kevin, Paul, God, why do you, God, why do you still find fault when nobody have a choice? How is that possible, God? How is that fair? How are you fair to Pharaoh? How is it fair to Esau? Aren't you a fair God? No. There's no such thing as an attribute of fairness. God is just. Romans 3 tells you how he justifies some sinners. For who has resisted your will? It's an impossibility. You can't resist the will of God. Nobody can. God answers. You ready? But indeed, O human, O created thing, who have no control over his next breath, who can't stop himself from dying, who needs to eat to live, who needs to drink to live, and if I don't give you that, you're going to perish. Indeed, O human, who are you? Who do you think you are to reply against the Most High God, the Sovereign King, the Creator and Sustainer of all things? Who are you? That's not me. I didn't write the book. Will the thing. Wow. Think God's getting serious? He didn't even call us humans. Call us things. Formed. Say to him, God. Who formed you, who shaped you, who gave you life. Why? Why have you, God, made me like this? Why have you done that to me, God? Are you serious? Why did you make me a sinner? Why did you create me just so you can show your own power? How arrogant, how unfair, how unjust. God, here's your response. Does not the potter, the creator, do I not, as God, have power over the things that I made? Yes, he does. If he speak you out of existence, can you stop him? If he takes your next breath, can you get it back? If he declares to blind you right now, will you still maintain your sight? And from the same lump of humanity, to make one vessel, one body, one human for honor. God says, I do what I want. I take from the same lump of clay, I make a vessel of honor, and then another one I take and I make that one a vessel of dishonor. Who's doing that? Is it you? Mm-mm. Not according to the scriptures. And he's talking about salvation. So I don't believe in elections. So what? Can you change it? Who are you? Oh man, oh created thing. God says, I'm in control. I am sovereign, and I ain't answering to you. This is where it gets really deep, folks. Take a deep breath. Exhale. We're treading some deep water. What if God, now this if isn't an if a condition. This is reality. God did exactly what he's about to say. This isn't a hypothetical. What if God, wanting to show, there you have it, God is wanting to show something again. What are you wanting to show, God? I want to show my wrath. That's what I want to show. I want to show my wrath, Kevin. Not only that, but I want to make my power known. How can I do it, Kevin? How can I show my wrath? How can I show the world that I created my power? I'm going to do it by creating people like Pharaoh. I am going to endure Pharaoh. How are you enduring Pharaoh, Lord? I'm going to be long-suffering with Pharaoh. I'm going to let Pharaoh live 40 years before I show my power. I'm going to give Pharaoh 40 years to turn to me, to stop his evil. Turn to me, Pharaoh. I'm going to endure. I'm going to be long-suffering. So here's the attributes, right? Here's one. Here's a second attribute. I'm going to do this, listen, with the vessels. Remember the vessels we just talked about? God says one to honor, one to dishonor. I'm going to do that with the vessels of wrath. There are vessels of wrath. God created them. Who creates the vessels? God does. He created them that way for that purpose. You want fairness? Here it is. He endured. Not only did he endure the wicked sin, he should have killed you in the womb, but he let you live. Therefore, he endured your wickedness when one sin that you created at conception was enough to condemn you and kill you and wipe you off the face of the map. Then he was long-suffering with you. Folks, I'm about to say something now. And it's nothing I can do about it. I don't have to like it. You don't have to like it. I endured with much long suffering the vessels of wrath prepared. 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 For what? Destruction. I didn't write that. God says, I created them. Vessels of wrath. Because I want to show my attribute of wrath. I want to show my attribute of power. Therefore, my attribute of endurance with long suffering on the vessels of wrath. I prepared. You going to tell me people are choosing God? Well, you read that in the book. God says no. They were prepared for destruction. You say, I don't like that. So what? Change it. Change it. Why did you do that, Lord? Why? Why would you do something like that? That God, watch this. Don't change the channel. Let me finish. That God might make known. He wants to show something else. What is it you want to show? Riches of his glory. So, here's your next attribute, right here. It's number 5. There's riches of glory. But these are another group of people. Vessels of mercy. There you have it. On vessels of wrath, they get endurance. They get long suffering. On vessels of mercy, they get to know the riches of the glory of Christ. Christ in you, the only hope you ever have for glory. That's a quote. Colossians. Which he, God, had prepared again. Oh my goodness. Listen, man, I don't know what you read when you see this. He said he prepared some for destruction, vessels of wrath, to show his wrath and his power. He endured them with long suffering, prepared for the destruction. And because of that, he might make known his glory, his riches of glory on vessels of mercy, which he had prepared. Don't tell me you going around selecting God. God says, no, I prepared everybody when? Beforehand. Before creation. Before creation. What did you prepare them for, Lord? I prepared them for glory. Everything that's happening with us right now. Everything. It's God executing the plan that he set in motion. That reconciliation plan. You can't change it. You can't alter it. It's already done. It's prepared for destruction, the vessels of wrath. It's prepared for glory, the vessels of mercy. Try all you want. Go ahead. Change it. God asked you that question. Who are you, old thing formed? Try. Go ahead. See, folks, my confidence don't come from Kevin. It comes from the surety of this word. Beforehand for glory, even us. I'm going to erase some of this. You need to see this. Even us. Now, what is he talking about? Who's this us? The ones that was prepared. He's talking about this right here. This vessel of mercy. That's the us. That was prepared for glory. That's the even us. How did you do that, Lord? Whom he called. You think you called on the Lord. That is not what the scriptures teach. You called on him after he made you alive. That's when you repented. That's when you seen yourself. Dead people don't pray. Dead people don't repent. He calls you first, not of the Jews only, but also to the Gentiles. Folks, there you have it. There you have it. I can go on and on and on, but I'm not. If you're still thinking you're around here and people around here selecting God, man, you haven't read the Bible. You're fooling yourself. God is a sovereign king. Nobody's making decisions for him. Nobody's helping him. You're not influencing him. That call right there. It's coming from God. That call. It's not your call. It's God's call. How do we do it? First Corinthians chapter 1. Go back. For the foolishness of the cross, to those who are those? The same ones we read about in Romans chapter 9. It's foolishness, what we're talking about. But to us, the ones prepared for glory, who are being saved, it's the power of God. See, this is the gospel, folks. The message of the cross. That's how God calls. He calls us through the gospel. Several times in the book it said that. Okay? For God made the world, the wisdom of this world foolishness. For since, this is where I want to go. For since the wisdom of God, the world through its own wisdom did not know God. You cannot know God before you come to Christ, before Jesus saves you. That's why I say the sinner have no chance. It pleased who? God. How then, God, are you getting people saved? That through the avenue of the foolishness of preaching, the message preached. What is that? The gospel. God calls people, he saves them, then he calls them using the gospel in the fullness of time for their life. To be saved. To save those who will ultimately believe. So there you have it, folks. I mean, I can go on and on and on about this, but I'm not. Look, here's the point. Jesus Christ is God. He does whatsoever he want to do. You have no part in salvation. Just like you had no part in your regular birth, you have no part in the second birth. God calls who he wants. God prepared the vessels of wrath for wrath and destruction. God prepared beforehand the vessels of mercy so that he can show the glory of his grace through the end of the ages. You don't have to like that. It's okay. But it's still true, whether you believe it or not. Let's just pray that we all are part of the vessels of mercy. Make us alive, O Lord. Show yourself great and glorious in Christ Jesus. We thank you. Have a great day, folks.